The dust from the gravel road settled on the blackberry bushes, coating the sweet fruit in a layer of gray. Hannah stood perfectly still, her heart hammering against the stiff fabric of her Sunday apron. She knew the sound of that engine. It wasn't the rhythmic clatter of a buggy. It was the low rumble of a pickup truck. She shouldn't look. To look was to invite curiosity, and curiosity was the first step away from the straight and narrow path. But as the truck slowed near the fence line, she saw him, Caleb. He wasn't wearing his suspenders. His hair was cut short, but when his eyes met hers across the field, the years of silence between them evaporated, leaving only a dangerous, terrifying hope. The morning mist in Holmes County, Ohio, has a way of silencing the world. It clings to the valleys, wrapping the farmhouses in a soft, white embrace that makes everything feel timeless. Here, the year could be 1826 or 2026, and you would hardly know the difference. For 20-year-old Hannah Yoder, this silence was usually a comfort. It was the time of day when she could speak to God without the distractions of the busy household. The air was cool and smelled of damp earth and last night's rain. She walked toward the barn, her black boots crunching softly on the gravel path. The lantern in her hand swung gently, casting a warm, yellow glow that danced against the red peeling paint of the barn doors. Inside, the cows were already shifting, waiting for the relief of the morning milking. This was her life. It was a good life, a sturdy life built on the solid foundation of faith, family, and hard work. Her father, Bishop Amos Yoder, was a man of few words, but immense strength. He was the pillar of their church district, a man who upheld the Ordnung the rules of their life with an iron will tempered by love. Hannah set her lantern on the hook and grabbed a metal pail. The rhythmic sound of milk hitting the side of the bucket began, a steady ping-ping-ping that usually allowed her mind to settle. But today, her mind would not settle. Today, the rumors had reached the Yoder farm. The rumors that whispered of a return. Caleb Miller was back. 3 years ago, Caleb had been just another boy in their youth group, driving a fast buggy and testing the boundaries during his... But unlike the others, who tasted the world and found it bitter, Caleb had found it sweet. He had traded his broad fall trousers for denim jeans, his buggy for a truck, and his German dialect for the fast English of the city. He had broken his mother's heart and left a silence in the community where his laugh used to be. And, though she never spoke of it to a soul, he had taken a piece of Hannah's heart with him. The sun began to burn through the mist, turning the sky a pale, washed-out blue. By the time Hannah returned to the kitchen, the house was alive. The smell of frying cornmeal mush and strong coffee filled the air. Her mother, Sarah, moved efficiently between the wood stove and the long table. "You are quiet this morning, Hannah," her mother said, not looking up from the skillet. In an Amish home, silence is normal, but a mother knows the difference between a peaceful silence and a troubled one. "Just thinking, Mangem," Hannah replied, setting the pitcher of fresh milk on the table. "The mist is heavy today." Her father sat at the head of the table. His beard was graying, his face lined from years of squinting against the sun. He opened the large family Bible, and the room went still. This was the anchor of their day. But as he read from the Psalms, Hannah found her eyes drifting to the window. Down the long lane, past the mailbox, a vehicle was driving slowly. It wasn't the mail carrier. It was a blue pickup truck. Her breath hitched. She saw the silhouette of the driver. He slowed down as he passed their farm, his head turning toward the house. Even from this distance, she knew the set of his jaw. Caleb. Her father stopped reading. He hadn't looked up, but he sensed the shift in the room. He closed the Bible with a heavy thud. "The world is pressing close today," Bishop Amos said, his voice low. "We must be careful not to let it inside." Hannah looked down at her plate, her cheeks burning. She knew her father had seen the truck too. He knew who was driving it, and the warning was meant for her. A week passed. The community of Holmes County is news travels faster than a buggy on a downhill slope. Caleb Miller was staying in a small rental cottage on the edge of town. He had a job with an English construction crew. He hadn't come to church. He hadn't come to see the bishop. He was living on the edge, neither fully in the world nor back in the fold. It was a dangerous place to be. On a Tuesday afternoon, Hannah was sent to the local dry goods store to buy thread for a new quilt. The store was a neutral ground, a place where the plain people and the English mingled amidst bolts of fabric and jars of molasses. She was carefully selecting a spool of dark blue thread when a shadow fell over the counter. The smell of sawdust and pine resin hit her first, a clean, sharp scent. "Hello, Hannah." The voice was deeper than she remembered. Rougher. She turned slowly. Caleb stood there. He was wearing a plaid shirt and work boots, his hair cut short in the English style, but his eyes were the same, warm, brown, and searching. "Caleb," she whispered, gripping the spool of thread so tight her knuckles turned white. You are back." "I am," he said softly. He glanced around to ensure no one was listening. "I needed to see the hills again. The city, it's too loud. Hannah, you can't hear yourself think." "You chose that life," Hannah said, her voice trembling. She was trying to sound like the bishop's daughter, stern and resolute, but she felt like the girl who used to race him to the creek. "You left us." "I left the rules," Caleb corrected gently. "I never left the feeling of home, and I never forgot the people." He took a half-step closer. "I never forgot you." Hannah's heart did a traitorous flip in her chest. This was forbidden. He was an outsider now. To speak with him like this, to let him look at her with such familiarity, was a violation of everything she had been taught. "I must go," she said, quickly placing coins on the counter. "My father is waiting." "Tell him I'm coming to see him," Caleb said, his voice urgent. "Tell him I want to make things right. I want to come home, Hannah." She froze at the door. He wanted to come home. "If you come home," she said without turning around, "you must leave the truck. You must leave the clothes. You must leave the world." "I know," Caleb replied. "I'm willing to give it all up, if I have a reason to stay." The weeks that followed were a torment. Caleb did approach the bishop. He came to the front porch of the Yoder house, hat in hand, asking for a chance to prove his repentance. Bishop Amos was skeptical. He had seen too many young men return only because they ran out of money or got in trouble with the English law. He told Caleb he needed to prove his heart was truly plain. He gave him a 6-month period of probation. No church membership yet. No social gatherings. Just work and prayer. And absolutely no courting. But the heart does not follow the order. It was late summer, the time when the heat hangs heavy over the cornfields. Hannah had taken to walking to the creek in the evenings to cool her feet in the water. It was a secluded spot, hidden by weeping willows. She wasn't surprised when she found him there one evening. He was whittling a piece of cedar wood, sitting on a large rock. He wore plain trousers and suspenders now, having given up his English clothes as the bishop demanded. His hair was growing out, tufts of it sticking out from under a straw hat. "You are taking a risk," Hannah said, wading into the shallow water. "I am a patient man," Caleb smiled. He held up the wood. He was carving a small bird. "The bishop is hard on me. He makes me shovel the manure and fix the fences that no one else wants to fix. He tests my pride every day." "He wants to see if you are humble," Hannah said, sitting on the grassy bank, careful to keep her distance. "Pride is what took you away." "No." Caleb looked at the water. "Curiosity took me away. Loneliness brought me back." He looked at her. "I missed the community. I missed the certainty of knowing who I was. Out there, ... You are no one. Here I am, Caleb." He tossed the wood carving gently toward her. It landed in the grass by her hand. "I am doing this for God, Hannah. I truly am, but I need you to know. The thought of you is what gets me through the long days." Hannah touched the smooth wood of the carving. It was beautiful. "We cannot speak of this. If Dead knew, ... He won't know," Caleb promised. "Not until I am baptized. Not until I am a brother in the church again. Then I will drive my buggy to your gate and ask for you properly." It was a beautiful dream, but dreams in Holmes County are fragile things. The discovery happened on a Sunday. It was not a secret meeting that gave them away, but a slip of paper. Hannah had kept the small wooden bird and a sketch Caleb had drawn for her hidden in her apron pocket. She had been careless. When she hung her apron on the hook after church, the sketch fluttered to the floor. It was a drawing of a house's small Amish farmhouse with a wrap-around porch and flower boxes. It was clearly a dream home, and signed in the corner for HY from CM. Her father found it. The confrontation in the parlor was quiet, which made it more terrifying. Bishop Amos did not shout. He sat in his rocking chair, the paper in his hand. "He is poisoning your mind," Amos said, his voice trembling with suppressed emotion. "He is using you to get back into this community. He is not sincere. He is working hard." "Dead," Hannah pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "He has given up his truck. He dresses plain. He is trying. He is an actor." Amos stood up, his face reddening. "He has tasted the world." "Hannah, that taste does not leave a man's tongue easily. He wants you, and he will say whatever he must to get you. But once he has you, he will grow bored. He will leave again, and he will take you with him to hell." "You don't know what is in his heart," Hannah cried out, a rare act of defiance. "I am the shepherd of this flock." Amos slammed his hand on the table. "And I will not let a wolf carry off my daughter. You are forbidden to speak to him. If he comes to this farm, I will turn him away. If I see you with him, the church will have to act. Do you understand? You could be shunned." The word hung in the air. Shunned, to be cut off, to be invisible, to lose her family, her meals at this table, her place in the world. "I understand," Hannah whispered. Autumn turned to winter, and a deep freeze settled over Ohio. Hannah obeyed her father. She did not go to the creek. She did not look at the road. She became a ghost in her own house, doing her chores with mechanical precision, her eyes dull and sad. Caleb continued to work. He didn't know why Hannah had gone silent, but he suspected the bishop had intervened. He worked harder. He helped neighbors with their harvest. He stayed late to repair the schoolhouse roof. He was proving himself inch by inch. Then came the blizzard of January. It was a storm, unlike any the elders could remember. The snow came down in sheets, burying the fences and blocking the roads. The wind chill dropped to 20 below zero. On the second night of the storm, a crisis struck the Yoder farm. The heavy snow caused a section of the main barn roof to collapse. Hannah woke to the sound of splintering wood and the terrified bellowing of cattle. She grabbed her coat and lantern, rushing out into the blinding white. Her father was already there, struggling to free a trapped cow. A beam had fallen, pinning the animal. The bishop was strong, but the beam was massive, and the snow was piling up fast. "Dead!" Hannah screamed, the wind tearing the words from her mouth. "Stay back!" He yelled. "It's not stable." He heaved at the beam, but his foot slipped on the ice. He went down hard, crying out in pain as his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. He couldn't get up The roof groaned above them, threatening to give way completely. Hannah tried to pull him, but he was too heavy, and the snow was too deep. They were trapped. Then, through the howling wind, a light appeared. A figure emerged from the storm, trudging through waist-deep snow. It was Caleb. He had seen the lantern light from his cottage down the road and known something was wrong. He didn't say a word. He didn't look at Hannah. He saw the bishop pinned on the ground and the beam threatening to crush them all. Caleb threw his shoulder under the fallen beam. With a roar of effort that sounded like a primal growl, he strained against the weight. The veins in his neck bulged. "Pull him out! Hannah!" Caleb screamed. Hannah grabbed her father by the shoulders and dragged him backward across the straw and snow. As soon as they were clear, Caleb let go. The beam crashed down, smashing into the spot where the bishop's head had been seconds before. Caleb collapsed onto his knees, gasping for air, his hands bleeding from the rough wood. The bishop lay there, clutching his broken leg, looking up at the young man he had called a wolf. Caleb didn't look like a wolf now. He looked like a savior. The recovery was slow. The doctor came and set the bishop's leg. The community came to rebuild the barn. Caleb was there every day. He didn't ask for permission anymore. He simply showed up to work. He sawed the lumber, he hammered the nails, he fed the livestock while the bishop was bedridden. One evening, 3 weeks later, the bishop called for Caleb. Hannah stood by the doorway, her hands trembling in her apron. Caleb stood by the bedside, his hat in his hands. He looked tired, but his eyes were clear. "You saved my life," Amos said, his voice gruff. "And you saved my stock." "I did what any neighbor would do," Caleb replied quietly. "You are not a neighbor," Amos said. He looked at Caleb for a long time. "You are a stubborn young man." A faint smile touched the bishop's lips. It was the first time Hannah had seen him smile in months. "The deacon tells me you have requested to be baptized this spring," Amos continued. "I have," Caleb said, "and you are ready to give up the world." "Truly, I gave up the world a long time ago. Bishop, it took me a while to walk back from it, but my heart has been here." Caleb glanced briefly at Hannah, then back to the bishop. "My heart is here," Amos sighed, shifting his cast. "A man who holds up a roof to save an old man. That is a man of strength. That is a plain man." He waved his hand toward Hannah. "Hannah, bring the coffee, and bring an extra cup for Caleb. He will stay for supper." The relief that washed over Hannah was so profound she almost fell. She looked at Caleb. He didn't smile. It wasn't the time for grinning but. His eyes held the warmth that melted the last of the winter chill in her soul. 2 years later, the spring sun is warm on the porch of a small farmhouse down the lane from the Yoder place. There are flower boxers on the railing, just like in the drawing. Hannah sits on the swing, a sleeping baby in her arms. She is quilting, the needle flashing in the sunlight. A buggy pulls into the drive. It's Caleb. He jumps down, his beard now fully grown, framing a face that looks content. He unhitches the horse with practiced ease. He walks up the steps and sits beside her. He doesn't say much. He doesn't have to. He reaches out and gently touches the baby's cheek with a calloused finger. "The corn is coming up good. So softly. It is a good year," Hannah replies. She leans her head against his shoulder. The truck, the city, the noise, it all feels like a story from another lifetime. Here, there is only the wind in the trees, the creak of the porch swing, and the quiet, enduring strength of a promise kept.